Welcome in to Moving the Chains, brought to you by Founders Federal Credit Union. I'm Kevin Thomas alongside Jerel Hendricks. We've got a great interview on it today, a very special guest, the new head coach of the First Baptist Hurricanes, Jamaal Birch. Coach, how you doing today?
I'm good, man. Living the dream, being blessed.
I hear that. We appreciate your time. We really do. If this is you guys' first time tuning in, check us out on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, etc. at Movin Chains. Our website, movinchains.com. That's movinchains.com. Our podcast on Apple, Spotify, Google, etc. Coach Birch was hired in January. He's been the pass game coordinator at Providence Day, North Carolina for the past 3 seasons. Prior to that, he coached at Oceanside Collegiate for 3 years as well. Coach, let's just start there. What's it been like taking over as the head man now at the varsity level?
It's a lot. So it's a big transition going from, being a receiver coach and, helping Chad with that coordinator role. It's a lot different, you know what I mean? So there's a lot more responsibility. There's a lot more, program stuff, which, I was prepared for. Me and Chad, he knew that I wanted to be a head coach. So he put a lot of responsibility on me to while I was there at Providence Day and even at Oceanside. So, a lot of that behind the scenes work that a lot of people just don't understand that you got to do as a head coach. So really getting the kids in the weight room. So these kids have never really had a true off season. I didn't know that until I got there. I went and hired one of my former coaches that was at Oceanside right away. So 2 actually former coaches at Oceanside that we coached together with. And one of them, he's an awesome trainer, and he was going to school to get his strength and conditioning stuff. So I brought him in to be a strength coach. So right away, he came in and he's been running our strength program consistently so we go Monday through Thursday, and Wednesday we have like a speed and agility day. So he's been running that, and it's great. So I don't have to be in there a lot. I know it's run the way I want it ran, and I handle everything else on the back end.
Coach Birch, you mentioned, your time with Coach Chad Greer, but let's get into the specifics of, your rise, from a wide receivers coach to the head coach here at First Baptist. Can you tell us a little bit about your background?
Yeah, so I always knew that I think I wanted to coach football regardless. So ever since I was a kid in high school, I loved the chess match. I loved to see how these coaches operated, how they set meetings up, and how the game plan and everything that went into it. I was really very intrigued. And then once I got to college, I knew as soon as I was like, man, this is it for me. I don't ever know a day that I'm gonna step away from the game of football. So I knew that. I said, as soon as I graduate, I think I'm gonna go find a job. And it just happened like magic. I came down back to Charleston. My family owns a pool building business, and we were out on I want to say over by Daniel Island or something like that. We were building a pool out there, and I ran into a guy, and his son played for Oceanside. And it was right when Oceanside was starting up, where they were practicing on a baseball field out near old Wando Stadium. So I went out there, and he asked me to go out there and talk to the kids because I was still playing college football. So he said, man, go out there and talk to him. So I went out there, and I was out there for 2 weeks. I went out there and I started helping. So the whole time I was here over the summer, I was going out there helping out practice. And I just fell in love with the game. And then when I went back to school, I got a call from Rick Biggers. Rick Biggers is a big real estate agent down here in the Mount Pleasant area. And he's like, hey, man, I got a guy named Chad Greer. He's going to take the head coaching job. And I told him that he needed to hire you. So I said, okay, cool. And then while I'm on spring break in Texas, and I think it was South Padre, Chad calls me. And he's like, hey, man, I don't know you. You don't know me. But I'm out here at Oceanside Collegiate, and there's one person recommended you, and he said, you got to hire you. So I'm going to hire you as my wide receiver coach. I said, okay. I'm still in school at the time. That's awesome. So I said, all right. Like right then and there, I was like, I'm locked in. I know what I'm going to do as soon as I graduate college. So I drove 14 hours after the day after my graduation to spring practice in Allendale, South Carolina. So 14 hours straight, dropped my stuff off at the house and went straight to spring practice, and then it's just been magic ever since, man.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I know you mentioned hiring a strength guy already. How is that staff shaping up? Still got a few guys you're trying to look into hire, or is it pretty much all in place now?
Yeah, my staff is pretty much in place. I want to look at a DC, right? I have a young guy that I could go ahead and hand that over to, but I would like an experienced DC. I would like a guy that has done it for a while. So I have been, getting hits, but it's hard when guys, aren't certified to teach, and you need a guy in the building to teach. So that's really the one spot I need to fill. But if not, we're still in a good situation with the guys that I got on board.
So you definitely got a heavy offensive background from playing in college. You were the wide receivers coach, passing game coordinator. What kind of offense are you looking to implement there at First Baptist? And when you do decide, you find that right piece for the defense, what kind of scheme are you looking for that side of the ball as well?
So offensively, if my background from Oceanside and Providence Day, it's very multiple. I wouldn't say we're an air raid offense. I think I think we're very multiple in what we do. So if I have to run the ball, I can get an 11 personnel or 12 personnel and run the ball at you. If I want to be wide open and throw the ball all over the field, I have an opportunity to do that. I think the offense itself is built around a lot of concepts and a simplified run game. So I'm a big offense. Like, I love to pass the ball, right? So I love to set you up and make vertical threats and then try to get you over the middle or outside and figure situations out. Or I want to create an extra gap. So I might just get helmets and motion. You'll see a lot of different formations from me, see a lot of motioning and up-tempo style of offense. Now, when you get to the defensive side of the ball, I would prefer to be a 4 down, like a 4-2-5 physical up front. If we see a down block, we squeeze a down block and we want to kick. So there's a lot of stuff like that. I want to see a lot of guys flying to the ball. I want to be loud. I want to be aggressive on the defensive side. So big communicating and just get us the ball back, right? So just get off the field and get us the ball back. That's what my mentality. And I feel like what we do on offense, it causes a lot of problems for defense, so we can put up some points.
Now, with your offensive background, do you plan on calling plays as well? Or do you want to take more of a kind of CEO role this season?
No, I'm a call play. I think the first couple of years until I have a guy that I want to mold. Mm-hmm. Once he gets the grasp and everything like that, then I think eventually I'll hand that over and take that CEO role. But these first couple of years getting it started, and there's a lot of stuff that I have to teach these guys beforehand to make sure everything is operating the right way. But I'll call the plays for the first couple of years.
So looking at it, you spent a lot of time with Coach Greer. How difficult has that process been, kind of making your own way? I know it's only been a few weeks now, as the head man, but stepping out on your own, having that mentor and kind of just having that anchor to guide you for so long. What's that process been like for you?
It's been great. Like I said, it's not like this is brand new. We've known that this is going to happen. I've been very patient. I think what a lot of people think when a young coach goes and takes a job, they just want to be a head coach, and that's all. No, I think everything that I've done to set myself up was strategic, right? So going to Providence Day was strategic. I could have stayed at Oceanside and been the coordinator there and everything been fine and see where that went, right? But I sat down and met with that head coach that was taking over that program. And then I just, in my mind, I was like, you know what? I need to go with him because how to run an organization and how to run a program, he's one of the best to ever do it. I honestly believe that. And you see why he's has so much success and how building these programs. So I was like, I got to be with this guy. I got to learn as much as I can. I got to soak it up. And then I want to go see what the private school ball is like up in Charlotte. Right. So I was like, man, I want to go out here, see how to start another program and see how that private school operates compared to a public school. And then it was just a lot of success. And then again, he gave me a lot of responsibility. It wasn't hey, you're just a wide receiver coach. This is your practice plan. We were in there 5, 6, 8 hours a day on Sundays, figuring out scheme, game plan, what I wanted to do, throwing the ball, what our offensive line coach wanted to do, running the football. And we matched it up and it was a legit plan. It wasn't just one person doing it. So he did a lot of, putting me in the right situation to learn and challenging me. So I think that's what's going to set me up to be successful because it's you don't change it. You know what I mean? Why would you change a system just because you're a head coach, right? You don't change that. You take what you've learned and I'll take it somewhere else. You know what I mean? I'm not trying to be different. I'm going to be I can't be Chad Greer. I'm not Chad Greer. I'm going to be Jamaal Birch. But I see how things operate. And if you want to be successful, what you have to do and the necessary steps you have to take. So that's what I'm bringing here to First Baptist.
Obviously, you learned a lot from Coach Greer. Are there any guys maybe at the college level or the pro level you watch that kind of really just kind of study their schemes and you like learning from, I guess, watching week in, week out?
College football, I think nowadays when I watch football, it's more just to watch what people are doing, right? So I'm a fan, obviously, but I like to watch the game to see what people are doing. How are they causing problems to other people? Like 3 down fronts. Like what are people doing to attack a 3 down front, or what are these guys doing on defense that causes these air raid teams problems, or all the to stop these concepts. So a lot of it's I just like to study the game. I call myself like a film nerd, or like a guy that just loves football so much where it almost my work-life balance. You could ask my girl, it's just all over the place. She's like, you need to step away from football for a little bit. Like, you got a family, you know what I mean? So I just, again, it's hard for me to step away from that and not want to dive in deep and learn from these. But like comparable, like if I want to say model myself, maybe like a Lincoln Riley, right? Because he's it's simple, right? What he does, but he's very effective, and he does a lot of creative things, right? And I've studied a lot of his film. I've watched a lot of stuff that he's doing. And again, he's a young guy, so it also motivates you to know that, hey, these young guys are doing it. But yeah, maybe something like him and like Spav when he was at West Virginia, or I even like again watching these, like Georgia is getting in these tight end sets that are causing problems for people. It's even neat to watch like Army and how they're still effective with this, triple option run game, and they're going to these, big Power 5 schools and beating them. So I think football is just great, period. So you just continue to learn is the biggest thing for me. Is just never get complacent and just learn as much as I can.
I understand. I can co-sign. Like, I'm a junkie too. It's always the game within the game. Like, that's what's a beautiful thing about football. It's mismatches. It's all the constant chess match. So I completely relate to that. But getting back to your team, I know you're new there. There's some guys that you've been able to pick out so far through your off-season program that are really going to do big things for you next season that you can already identify.
Yeah, I think Will Huddle. He's a big guard, and he's been a tremendous leader in the weight room. I think Ben Bessinger on the D line, and he also can play a little linebacker, is going to be disruptive. I got a guy coming in. I don't want to put his information out, but because how coaches get.
You're good.
But he could flat out spin it, So he's a guy that I feel like can help us on that offensive side of the ball. And then I got a couple of like Ty, a really good young receiver, Juice, another little slot shifty guy that can cause a lot of problems in what we do, motioning and things like that. But yeah, we gotta still figure out Russell. He's playing baseball right now, but he's a long, lengthy receiver. And now First Baptist, these boys are playing both ways. So you gotta understand, like, sure. I don't have 100 kids. I'm gonna have about 35, right? So again, so I got guys running track and playing baseball and doing something, some kids are trying out for AAU basketball right now. So I haven't got a legit number of what actually guys I have, but the guys that are consistently working, I'm very impressed with. And I think we got a good start and base that can lead when those guys come in that springtime.
Yeah, it's always tough with a smaller group to kind of get some of that stuff set when they're playing all these other sports. But if you had a chance to put together kind of a spring and summer schedule, and you guys have any 7-on-7s lined up for the new offense out there?
Yeah, so right now it's been a lot of trying to figure out certain dates and when I'm trying to do spring ball. I think we're going to do spring ball the last week of April and the first week of May. I think that's the right time because I think they'll officially be done with baseball, track. So I'll get those guys out there. Summer, there's a lot of things that we've been planning, which as a coaching staff, I think we've been talking about doing like a camp tour. So I want to get as many kids as I can in front of coaches and just colleges. I want to make it bigger than football at a point, right? I want to take them to like 1 or 2, 3 camps, and then let's go tour 6 schools, right? So these kids don't just get locked in and, hey, I want to see Clemson. I want to see South Carolina. There's some really great smaller programs out there in this state and in Georgia and North Carolina that these kids need to see. So we're trying to figure out the right situation and dates that we can get these kids out in front of coaches. And then 7-on-7, we'll do Tuesday nights in the summer, and we'll invite teams over, or we'll go travel. right, to go to some local schools around here. But yeah, we're going to be competitive and all that stuff, and especially what we do throwing the football wise and getting these kids as many reps as possible before we get to fall.
So this is an interesting question, given your background. I mean, you've helped in coaching Sam Hartman, Jaden Davis at Providence Day, just committed to Michigan. I think at 2025, David Sanders, like the number one rated recruit already for that class. So you have familiarity with a lot of these college coaches. With it getting harder and harder to be recruited, and especially, more so with you going to the SCSA ranks, how important is having those existing relationships with college coaches, especially in the era of the transfer portal?
I think it's extremely important. I think it's extremely important, especially, and keeping those relationships, because a lot of people leave, right? And then they're like, oh, well, they only recruited that area of Charlotte. Now you got to remain like Joker, like Coach Joker at NC State. Those guys, send a text. You know what I'm saying? Especially as coaches, you want to continue to have that communication with these guys, because you never know what you're going to have on your team, and you never know what you're going to get in a year and a half. You know what I mean? So always, I think it's super important to stay in communication, and then go see them, right? So go to their clinics, go to these camps, get your kids in front of them. Again, I think it's communication and then that connectiveness in that relationship. I think that's where you stay on top of. You can't just, hey, I'm a head coach now, I'm in South Carolina, so I'll figure it out when I get down there. No, you got to keep the guys that you have now and then build upon them.
One thing that's cool about SCSA is that it's such a smaller, I guess, classification. And with the recent reclassification, you guys are in 3A now in SCSA. You'll play guys like, Hilton Head Christian, Wilson Hall, Pinewood Prep in the regular season. But it's also neat that you'll go ahead and turn around and play those same teams in the playoffs. How cool is that basically in SCSA, everybody you play in the regular season is who you would play in the playoffs. There's not a whole lot of new teams when the playoffs come around. What kind of dynamic does that provide for you guys?
Well, we had that same situation at Providence Day. Mm-hmm. So we played Christian, twice, because we would have to play them early in the year, or the Raymond Gap out of Georgia. We knew, hey, if we beat them, we're going to have to play them again. Yeah. I think it's very unique. And then it also causes you problems. It's hard to beat people twice, right? So at the end of the day, so you could beat them, but you got to understand coaches can coach, right? And they're going to change some things. Then they got your film against them, so then they can, create a different plan. I think it's unique, but it also can cause you a little bit of problem. It can give you a couple of headaches. And I know for us, especially me and Chad, we were up late at nights trying to figure out, all right, well, we did this. How do we do something similar, but make it look different, right? So, I mean, it can be really cool, but it's also going to cause a lot of coaches headaches.
A lot of self-scouting, I guess, is probably going on.
Oh, yeah,
what are they going to do? So how do we kind of do the chess match? I love that.
Exactly.
Take your financial game to the next level with Founders Federal Credit Union. Reach your full potential. Relax. Join Founders today. Visit an office near you or relaxjoinfounders.com to apply. Federally insured by NCUA, member qualification required.
So just we did a little bit of research. We're moving on to the easier questions now, so you can breathe out and just relax here. No more football stuff. Too heavy, at least. We'll still talk about football. But we got info that you grew up in Texas, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So just describe to our listeners, we got some fanatical people here in South Carolina. What's one of the craziest stories you had to deal with, in your experience in Texas high school football?
The craziest experience? I wouldn't say the craziest. I think it was just the atmosphere. I think Texas high school football is, I think it's the mecca of all high school football. You got California, you got Georgia that does it really well. I think, but that it's just different in Texas. I mean, the size of the stadiums, you pack games out, whether you're winning or losing. The amount of support that goes into an athletic program, football wise in Texas, even any sport out there, they just take sports and athletics to an entirely different level. But high school football in Texas was the best decision I think I've ever made. Because I think really I'm from Charleston. Going into my high school, freshman year, I was supposed to go to Fort Dorchester, which all my brothers went to school. All right, so my brother Jerel Berry that went on to play at Clemson.
Yep.
He played at Fort Dorchester. And then my brother Justin also played at Fort and went on to Coastal. So it was almost like that little bloodline is like, all right, you got to be the next person to go to Fort Dorchester. And then my dad, got stationed in Texas, my mom stayed here, and I was looking like, this might be this is a hard decision to make, but who's gonna turn down going to play high school ball in Texas, and not only at any school in Texas, but a 6A school where they're gonna bring in a lot of, fans and everything like that, and a lot of support, a big stadium, that Texas Friday Night Light atmosphere is real. It's very real. What you saw in that movie is real, and that's how that is. So it was amazing, man. It was one of the best experiences ever.
Awesome.
We talked about this kind of off air a little bit, but I want you to hit on it for listeners. So you were at Oceanside when they filmed QB1 with Sam Hartman there. How, I guess, surreal was that season with everything going on, all the cameras, like just what was that like for you guys?
Man, so that season, again, is something you just can't make up. We got there in Allendale, South Carolina, in an old middle school, and we didn't have a weight room. So it was old school backyard lifting on the stage, and Chad ran it, and we would come support him, and it was a lot of body weight, but we worked those boys into the ground. It was hard. It was a lot of hard work, but we also had kids that just never really knew how to play football, right? You would tell them to line up and run a route, and you're like, we were looking at each other like, what do we get ourselves into? You know what I mean? Like, are we really going to try to turn this place around? But I think it was the culture and the buy-in. Those kids bought in, and they worked tremendously hard. And then you got to understand, we didn't have a practice field, right? So we had to go from Allendale and drive another 30 minutes to Seaweed Bay Church and practice out there in their backyard, which they made 2 little fields out there for us. Completely blessed and thankful for that they did that. But when it rained, it was a swamp. It was a swamp. Like, you can't go out there in tennis shoes. You had to wear duck boots or something like that. It was a crazy situation. All the mosquitoes, and we only got about 15 yards of practice field. And before we even got a chance, and that was all summer until we got an opportunity to finally move in Mount Pleasant. And even then, we didn't have a legit practice field. So there was a lot of the obstacles that we had to deal with, on top of starting a program with these kids never won a game. They were getting beat by 60, 50 points a game. And you had to change their mentality that they're winners, right? So you had to change these kids' mentality. And again, you brought in a guy like Sam Hartman, who just automatically is going to come in with the leadership aspect and win their entire locker room. But also, he gave those kids belief, right? So they just got behind him, and you had a kid that transferred in from Sockasty called his name was Jerel Shepherd, and those two, senior leadership created the foundation where we built upon. And again, we won. I think we beat every team that they ever lost to in that same season. I think we went 7-2 because we couldn't go to the playoffs. And again, you can't make that story up. So it was amazing. And then you see what happened after that. We just kept climbing that ladder, kept growing. So yeah, it was that's a story. We should write a book about it. Chad needs to write a book about that.
Most definitely. Yeah, I'd definitely buy a copy of that one. For sure. We got to get the obligatory food question out of there. And I don't know how I've been thinking about this for the last 30 minutes. How I'm going to phrase it, because you're from 2 of my favorite places, from being in Texas, you got your Tex-Mex and that Texas barbecue, which I'm so near and dear to my heart. And then Charleston, which is a food mecca. So, which one would you rank more, San Antonio or Charleston? What's higher on your list? And what are some of your favorite places?
So you're talking about food, right?
Yeah, food.
Right, so you got 2 of the best places when it comes to food. Charleston, I think you can't beat Charleston when it comes to the restaurants and the fresh seafood and all styles of food down here. I think Charleston's one of the best to do it, period, when it comes to that. But Texas, I mean, I'm a big Mexican food person. I love Mexican food. And down there, they do it different. It's more authentic. You're getting the fresh tortillas. You go to the little hole in the wall mom and pop spot. And it's amazing. So if I'm going Mexican food, I'm going all the way to Texas, and if I'm staying here, it's strictly seafood. I love seafood. I can eat it all the time. So, if you're coming down here, I think there's a couple places that I would recommend is Leon's.
Yep.
Leon's has, and they're known for, it's called Leon's Oyster Bar, but they're known for their chicken. And fried chicken is amazing. And so it's off the hook. It's one of my favorite spots. If you're going for seafood, you got Bowen Island that does it, fry it up. You can write your name on the wall or on the table, wherever you want. And you're gonna get some really good fried fish out there. But yeah, when it goes, I'm gonna have to lean more to the Charleston side when it comes to that kind of food, but Texas does it well too.
Well, last one here for you, Coach. I know you're just kind of getting settled in and whatnot at school, but do you have any goals yet for the 23 season, either personal or for the team?
So personal goal is I want to win the kid, right? So I want kids to buy into me and buy into this culture and what I'm trying to preach and the culture that I'm trying to establish here, and which I feel like I have. In the first, I made it a point that when I took this job, I was going to be on campus, right? I'm not going to be an off-campus coach that's going to be here. So I want to make sure I had a job on campus so I can see these kids every single day, right? So they know that they had a coach that's going to support them either in the weight room or academically, right? So I want to really push these kids hard and on the academic side. And then when I get them after school, I'm gonna challenge them in the weight room, right? So I'm gonna make them a little uncomfortable. I'm gonna put them in uncomfortable situations to know that, you can stand up afterwards, right? And it's gonna be okay. So yeah, I made it a point that to be in front of these kids. But yeah, the goal I think right now is winning these kids, right? And then getting the buy-in. I think once we hit the off season and once we hit the field in the summer, I think all of it's gonna start to mend together, and then we're gonna start seeing something. I want to be better than where they were last year, right? I want to get these kids, especially on the football field, I want them to be better and understand, hey, 5-5 is not the standard, right? We want to be consistently good, and I want to build that model program in SCSA that people talk about, like the Hammonds, right? I want the people to know around this area that we want to be the standard. So, yeah, that's my goal. And then we can figure – I'm not really going to talk about wins like I want to go undefeated, win a state championship. I got to win these kids right now and then figure that out on the back end.
Well, this has been great. Definitely all of our followers go check out Coach Birch and the First Baptist program on Facebook, Twitter, etc. They do a great job with posting, athlete highlights and whatnot with the teams. Definitely go check them out there. Like I mentioned, check us out Facebook, Twitter, Instagram at Movin Chains, movingchains.com, our website, and our podcast on Apple, Spotify, and Google. Moving the Chains brought to you by Founders Federal Credit Union. Jerel, anything else for Coach Birch before we let him go tonight?
No, just really excited to see the next chapter in your progression as a football coach. Congratulations on getting the job here. And I love what you said about winning the kids. Like, that's the most important thing. Wins and losses are going to come. And, I think you're going to be successful, based on speaking to you today and your pedigree. There's no doubt in my mind. So just looking forward to your progression as a coach, looking forward to the progression of that, First Baptist Hurricanes program. And I wish you continued success.
Man, I appreciate it, guys. Thank you for taking your time out and interviewing me.
Yeah, we appreciate you, Coach. Look forward to stopping by our practice or game time next year and getting to meet you and shake your hand for sure. But best of luck this year, all right?
All right, man. Appreciate it.